was going over the Cork and Kerry mountains, I met with Captain Farrell, and his money he was counting. I first produced me pistol, I then produced me rapier. Since stand and deliver, for you are the boldest saver.
Mushering, no one do, no one laugh. White fall the daddy-o, white fall the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar.
I counted out his money, it made a pretty penny. I put it in me pocket.
And
Well, what's the connection, do you think, then? You know, I mean, obviously, you know, whiskey in a jar and what, you know, this whole connection to folk music and whiskey and folk music and drums and folk music and beer. You know,
it's all to do with drink.
we all love a drink, yeah. But I mean, what is the connection really?
I think the connection goes way back to probably medieval times when people were singing. And if you ever see an old movie or an old thing like that, it's always in bars they're singing in lounges, and there's always a dram or a big jug of whiskey or a big jug, you know. And somebody decided to write songs about these people drinking and about drink, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, so what about? I mean, so you had these that big hit then, and I mean, I take it. I mean, that started the traveling overseas as well. That started the opening up. So where did you start going to, and where did you go to first? Was it America that you went to first?
America would have been we did a lot of tours of England and all that sort of stuff, all the clubs over there and every sort of thing. But we did a gig in the Albert Hall one time, and it was quite a Bob Champion. Do you remember the famous jockey Bob Champion?
Yeah.
Red Rum, I think it was. And he put up a big fundraiser for charity for cancer, because I think he suffered from it himself. And we were on the bill for that. So we came out to the Albert Hall, and we sang about 6 songs. And just to walk out onto that stage and see, it was just the most nearly terrifying experience. We were fairly young at the time, and but to look up and the 6-7 stories up and 7,000 people or whatever it was, you know, and it was incredible. It was absolutely incredible. And we had the same dressing room as Bob Champion. We've some great photographs here with him, you know. But we hit America then, and first time we went to America was in 72. But further into the 80s, we with the Railroad Times, the Ferryman, everything went really big. And we were Grand Marshals in the Fort Lauderdale parade and Grand Marshals in the Miami parade. And we ended up getting the keys to 3 of the cities: Fort Lauderdale, Hollywood in Florida, and Moorhead in Kentucky. So just to give you a laugh, we were you know, a lot younger and mad. And we were getting these keys to see these beautiful things. And we didn't realize how important they were. And Kevin Malloy and Phil, God be good to Phil, but we were on the road together, and they were great lads and still are. And they're all still gigging, Kevin is and Patsy. And but he said to me one morning in the Riverside Hotel in Fort Lauderdale, he said, "Do you remember that key we got?" I said, "Geez, when did we get that?" Yeah, so I remembered a couple of months beforehand or something. He said, "There's a guy over here. Do you know how important that is?" I said, "Well, yeah, it's a key of a city. It doesn't get me free drink or anything, you know. It might let me cross the bridge with my sheep if I have any, you know." So he said, come across the road. We went across, and there was the same. We got it in the mayor's office with the mayor there and the big reception and everything. And this gentleman it was just a little restaurant, and he was 92 years of age. And he'd come through 2 or 3, you know, 2 world wars, Vietnam, the whole works, Korea, and he was getting the same key. And people were mesmerized he was getting the key, and we were saying, "Geez, we've one of them at home on the wall, you know, or something, you know," not realizing
in the sock drawer.
Yeah, it's true. It's on the wall now anyway.
It's on the wall.
Yeah, this friend of ours, we played in Moorhead, Kentucky, and this lady friend of ours, Bridget Parsons, she was from there, and she said, "Would you accept the key to the city? The mayor was at your concert last night. It was a big auditorium, and it was sold out." And I said, "Yeah," I said, "We'd love to." So we went down anyway, got the key with the mayor in her office, and she said, "Can I bring you back to my local pub?" She said, "There's a big sign on the door that says, 'Please leave your guns and rifles at the door,' you know." And I said, "Oh, that's an old pub." "No, that really happens here. Trust me. It's Moorhead." She said, "It's the back of beyond," you know. And I said, "Okay." So we went in anyway, and this girl came in and said, "Excuse me," she said, "who owns that car registration, blah, blah, whatever?" And Bridget says, "I do." So I come outside anyway. So I come out with you. And there was this guy, I swear to God, in a big straw hat dungarees, chewing tobacco, and you have the typical hillbilly, you know. And I said, sorry, is there a problem? And he says, yeah, I'm a traffic warden kind of thing. He says, you're parked in front of a doctor's office. And she was too. And I said, look, I said, what's the problem? And he said, no, I have to give her a fine. I said, excuse me 1 second. So I opened the boot of the car, as the trunk, as they say in America. And I said, look, we've just been down in your mayor's office getting the key of your city. And surely you must give her some leeway, you know. And he just looks at it. He said, yeah, nice key. And he spits his tobacco. Should have given you an effing parking place as well. So $20, I gave him the $20. So I said, I have to bring you in for a drink for that. You couldn't, he was on duty, you know. So yeah, we got the keys to cities, and then the Hollywood cops in Florida and Fort Lauderdale police were great friends of ours. I mean, they really were fantastic, you know. So, and like Bob Dunbar, Jimmy O'Connell, all of these guys down there, they were fantastic. We had a great time with them. Some great cheers, you know, down there.
It's a beautiful place, Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Absolutely.
I mean, I spent 2 weeks in the Hollywood district, and you know,
I could have got you a free drink. I have the key.
If I'd had the key, if I don't, you know, that's the thing, you know. I mean, if I'd had the key, it was, but you know, I mean, what a stunning place! It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. So you. Well, with all these tours and things, I mean, how did you do the big kind of Boston, New York type thing as well? With all the,
we had fantastic times there. My wife got to go to, would have lived, you know, she would have lived in Manhattan. New York is her favorite city on the planet. You say to me, if I ever win the lottery, you're going to buy an apartment in Manhattan. I said, look, I'll send you the divorce papers. It's all right, you know. But we had fantastic times over there. We actually played for one of the, I won't mention which party, but it was one of the parties that there was Democrats and Republicans, so it was one of them. Take a pick. And
it was Mr. Donald Trump, surely now. Come on.
Oh no, long before him, Mr. Bush. But he was on a campaign. Our manager is a big Republican, you know, John Ryan, and he lives up in Winter Springs in Florida, and he got us a super gig. I mean, they flew us over, picked us up in a stretch limo for the weekend. They brought us down to play in a ship, the Pelican, something it was called, and in the harbour. And all the people who were going around for the election were up in the top deck, and we were down on the lower deck playing to ourselves. They weren't even listening. And they come in the second half. They said, "You guys are super. You're fantastic." I said, "Geez, it must be on a different show than we were." And he said, "Would you mind just scrapping the second half? We have to move on. We have to go to the next election place." You know, there was a check already in the post about a month beforehand, a huge check. And we went back to the point. The man drove us back in the limo. We went back and just had a session in the bar, you know. But it's a great experience to see the way they work. I mean, it's unbelievable, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what's been? I mean, through all of the highs and the lows, Sean. I mean, what's been the sort of high point in your career? What for you? What would be your single most point where you would say you're living the dream? I know you're living the dream every day, but you know,
you want to bet? Let's call it a nightmare. Well, one of the biggest things ever, my favorite actress of all time was Maureen O'Hara, herself and John Wayne, The Quiet Man, you know, the famous film. Yeah. And everybody watches that in St. Patrick's Day. I still watch it. And she was home here, and we had the record, the song from that, The Oil of Finish Free. It was in the top 10 in, I think it was around 1988. It was actually 1988. And she was home here in the holidays, and she was driving, she had a house in Glengarriff in Cork, a beautiful spot. And she was home here in the holidays with a girl called Margaret O'Shaughnessy down in Foynes in County Limerick. And Margaret was driving her around, and our song, The Oil of Finish Free from the movie, came on the radio. And she says, I don't care who's singing that, I want them. Every year they honor a certain actor or actress from Hollywood in a certain venue around. Sometimes it's Las Vegas, sometimes it's New York. And she was being honored a couple of months after, and we happened to be going to America at the same time in the Marriott Hotel in LaGuardia Airport in New York. And she asked for us to be there. So turns out we had a huge gig that night in Queens, just across the road. It was brilliant. It all worked out perfectly. So we played for her. She was on a podium, and I still have I think the guest list upstairs. Every actor, Paul Newman, you name it, John Wayne. John Wayne wasn't there; he was gone. But most of them were there in the hall, and we presented her with some Tipperary crystal, and I believe I only heard recently that since she died, Margaret Shockley, the same girl, went out to see her house. They're opening a museum to her in Foynes now, and I believe she said, "What's that there? That's the ball that the Dublin City Ramblers gave her." And it was engraved to her, and they're going to put that in the museum, I believe. So in here in Dublin, which is fantastic, you know. So, but she came down off our podium when we finished. We did about 15, 20 minutes for her, and she was as Dublin, never lost the accent. Came down, she said, "Jesus, lads, that was fantastic." And I mean, she said it like that. "Jesus, lads, that was fantastic." Thanks a million. Honestly, thanks a million for coming over. She'd flown us over, but somebody had. She didn't know about it. And she said, "Where are you playing tonight?" I said, "Yeah, we're crossing the Tower View in Queens." Jeez, if I could get away from this show, she said, "I'd be over like a light and have a good point," which is, you know. But that was it. So it was it was definitely one of the highlights, you know.
And I mean, through all the adversity, I remember chatting quite in depth about, you know, Finbar would obviously talk about his parents and the first time he ever had electricity, and I mean, obviously, Finbar was a traveling man, you know, he was, you know, all over the place. But I mean, what was the hardest thing you've had to overcome, Sean, in show business to keep the thing going? I mean, what's been your hardest challenge?
I say two of the hardest challenges would have been, and I know I don't mean to be morbid, when my own mother passed away, because she was my rock. She was my best friend, and we'd go to the local pub. We'd bring her out every Monday and Friday, and we'd be sitting there, and she'd tell your man to shut the bar at night. That she was going to have me sing a few songs for her friends. She was so proud of what we achieved, you know, whether it be little or big, it doesn't matter. But she was very, very proud of that. And then when my own wife passed away in 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago, I met her the weekend that the Rare Old Times went gold. I met her in Galway. She was on holiday down for the weekend. We were playing for the weekend. Pure luck, pure coincidence. Just met her, and we were 40 years together. But they would have been two of the hardest times, because I'd given it up. When my mother, you know, that was something we got through. But when my wife thought, I just said, "No, that's it, finished." Couldn't picture life without her, you know. And anyway, Jim McQuillan, who managed a group called Bagatelle, I'm sure you've heard of Bagatelle, and he managed them. And he rang me about a month after. He said, "Sean, I hear you're giving it up." He said, "It'd be a shame. Great group." He said, I manage, you sing. So what if I got you one gig?" I said, "Just get one here, then maybe, and one there." And the rest was history. We just kept it going. It gradually came back, but it took 2 years maybe before I really got back into it.
Yeah, it's a tough. I think it's, you know, the losing anybody's a real tough challenge. But I mean, it's especially your mother and your wife.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, the wife was great crack. She was a great singer herself. She loved singing, and but I was on stage after I got back into it gradually. But there was a few times I had to leave the stage. I just wasn't able. Just the songs were, you know, just they really heart-rending, you know. And I just had to leave for a few minutes and come back, and you know. But gradually, you never get over it. You get through it, you know.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. And I mean, you know, I mean, obviously that this podcast goes out to music students all over the world, and that are going to get into the music business, and you know, and I always ask my guests the same question, this one particular question, because I think it's relevant. Of, you know, they all, and surprisingly, everybody has got a different answer, and as much as, what advice would you give to somebody? What have you learned through the years of being, you know, a folk star? And, you know, what advice would you give to somebody starting out today?
Well, if it was young kids or whatever, it's just starting out, I just tell them to go for the dream. I mean, we started out just playing for fun, and you hope for that big break somewhere along the way, and eventually it took a long time, but it came along. And just to be nice to people on the way up, because you could meet them on the way down. You know, I know it's an old saying, but it's very, very true. I know too many people in the business who have kind of, you know, not just our business, overall, who, you know, just think they do this and do that, and then all of a sudden you find out something's gone wrong, and, you know, but I still have great sympathy for them. But I don't believe in grudges around. But a young kid starting to learn a couple of chords on a guitar, play a banjo, pick up something and give it a try. But if you have a voice at all, you can singing. I mean, we have relations and friends who are great singers and their kids, and I could see them in the future being up there, just to keep it going, not to give up. Mainly, just go for it and don't give up. That's what I would say.
So you're looking at 50 years behind you, and
60.
yeah, but I mean, behind you, it's 50.
I started when I was 2.
But I mean, I did an interview with Gene Simmons from the rock band Kiss, and he said, the interesting thing about Kiss is that when I'm dead, he said, and all the band members are dead, Kiss will still be going.
Yeah.
There'll still be a Kiss.
Absolutely.
And to a certain extent, we've seen that with the Clancys, with you've had, okay, they're not called the Clancys, but you've had the High Kings, and you've had this and that, and the Dubliners, I think, will probably still always be a Dubliners.
Forever. Yeah.
Can you see the same thing happening with the Dublin City Ramblers?
I can, Rory, because I'll tell you why. Way back, a lot of people now, I've been very, very lucky to have such great friends and great families. My own family and Rita's family and all the great friends around us, like me techie here today, avoided my geez. Where would I be without it? But it's great to see. No matter where we go, I was out with a brother-in-law last night. He's a band, and I got up and sing a few songs. And there was a band come on after them, and they were a kind of a Celtic rock. They sang at least 4, 5, 6 of the Ramblers songs, So, and they're probably only in their 30s or a little bit more. But those songs are always going to be sung, no matter where. And I mean, the Dubliners have their own hits, the Furies, ourselves, and they'll always be sung long after we're gone, I hope. I mean, if you think, we were singing the Wild Rover Black Velvet Band in '63, and they're still a highlight of the show today. They really are. So I mean, never doubt that what you're doing is going to fail. Just make it. It's going to, once you get it out there, it's going to keep going. Absolutely.
And that's the fun thing. I mean, there's a famous music producer in Sweden, but he's actually a Scottish guy as well. His name's John Ballard, and John's wrote big hit records for lots of different things. But on his side issue, what he does is he puts on a kilt with him and another guy called Eric, and they go out there and they do Wild Rover and Whiskey and a Jab, but in Sweden.
Yeah.
And they love it. They just, I mean,
same in America. I mean, one of the first requests we get for is the Wild Rover. That's one of the first requests we ever get. We played a place there recently called Timber Pines. It's a beautiful performing arts centre, and we were booked to play it just as COVID hit, and it was sold out. It was, I think, 800 people or something, and they held their tickets. I offered the deposits back, and no, they still want to go. So I mean, 5 years later, 5 years later, nearly, the same people who booked their tickets 5 years ago were there this time, and it was sold out. Show went great. We're booked back for the next time, So, but that's all down to the love of Irish music,
Right, yeah.
They love it.
So,
absolutely.
Out of all the songs, then, that through your time of working in the music, what songs grabbed you the most?
Well, obviously the Rare Old Times. I mean, that was the one that really launched us and definitely grabbed us. I mean, and when we sang it at shows, people said, "Geez, where'd you get that song?" That was one of the ones majorly, But they all just came along. You were there, we were there. The songs were around. We just picked up, and that suits you, and that suits you. Different songs that suit different voices, and that's the way we worked it. You pick a song that might have suited Kevin, or might have suited Patsy, or whatever, and that's the way it worked. And then you go into a studio and you're doing your albums, and that's where it really comes out, because if the producer and whatever, and they say, "No, I don't think you're getting that, so you try that." And that's how it worked all over the years, But basically now, if I like a song, I'll just sing it. I'll do it.
And just do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you write a lot of songs as well?
I don't. No, I've written one or two, but I've written quite a few, but they're up in a box somewhere upstairs. I haven't brought them to the fore yet. I have a couple though that I might be doing. Yeah.
That's interesting. What do you see for what's the goals now? You know, I mean, you've went through quite an extensive career. It's 50 years and 50 songs. But
Yeah.
What's the goal now? Is the goal to conquer the world one last time? Is that the?
Yeah. Well, myself, Pearson, Paul are the band at the moment, and I have a great friend. It's getting to the stage now where kind of we're mixing around. I have a great friend called Roy Buckley, and he's from Cork. Great singer, great act on stage. He's only less than half. He's only 35, you know.
Yeah.
So have to rope him in and keep him under control, you know. And I have to give him the handbook. So, but no, he's a great guy, and he lives in Cork, and he came to America with me the last time, and I went down a treat. So he's looking. There's two lads in America called the Black Donnellys. They're from Dublin, as Dublin as can be. But we're looking at getting something going. They're really big there. I mean, they're working on it. I know they're doing a documentary on the great Pete St. John for Netflix, and we'll be number one to do that with them because they have it with the family's permission. So really looking forward to doing that because Pete, everybody talks about Pete and the songs they get off, and what in the latter days, 10 years, the last 10, we were with Pete probably the first 20 years of our innings, and Roy was with him the last 10 years kind of thing, doing sessions out. You know, you had certain different things going on, whether it be charity or whatever. Pete was a great man for all that stuff. So I ended up on my own going out with Roy, doing all these things with him. And so if we get this thing on with the Donnies, Roy and ourselves, it could be a major. It's going to take a few months, but if it happens, it'll be. I know myself it'll be major. A great feeling off it. And Dolphin Records, they said the same. Just let's get it going. You get your bit here, they get their bit over there. Link it all up together. And if I have to fly over to Vegas, or they have to fly over here, but it's going to be a great. It'll be more or less. These two guys got a Grammy Award for one of the documentaries they did. They did 60 songs in 50 states in 40 days, you know. Gigs rather, sorry, 60 gigs in 50 states in 40 days. Yeah. Wow. And they got it done, and now they want to hook up with ourselves. And so if that comes off, it's going to be, they're actually bringing out a 9/11 documentary on the thousands of people who have Irish connections that were never highlighted in the 9/11 thing, you know.
Right.
Yeah,
that's special. So a lot of special stuff coming up then. I mean, that's
a lot of special. Now, if this is going to take work. We're just going to keep doing our gigs here at the moment, and we're back in America then for festivals around August, maybe even beforehand. And they're big festivals, like the one in Iowa. We started that with them. It'll be 17 years ago, and we're the only band that's done the whole 17 years. The first festival there was 700 people at it 17 years ago. That's nothing for a festival. And last August, a few months ago, just gone. They had 67,000, because when a festival starts in America and grows, it becomes a family weekend out, not just a music festival. But people come from all over. They come from Europe, and they come from Canada and Newfoundland down to the festivals. And I've got 2 awards out of it so far: the longest, the 50th anniversary, and the longest band ever to do it.
Incredible. Well, I normally ask Sean, my guests, what track do you want me to play out the interview with? But since you're sitting with a banjo, I'll leave it to you, and you can play us out.
Okay. We'll do the Rare Old Times.
Listen, thank you so much for coming on, Sean, and I look forward to speaking to you soon. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Rory. An absolute pleasure. And don't leave it as long the next time.
No, we'll speak very soon. Next couple of days.
Raised on songs and stories, heroes of renown, the passing tales and glories that once was Dublin town. The hallowed halls and houses, the haunting children's rhymes, that once was part of Dublin in the rare old times. rosy as the light declines. I remember Dublin City in the red round times. Oh, my name, it is Sean Dempsey, as Dublin as could be, born hard and late in Pimlico, in a house that ceased to be. By trade I was a cooper, lost out to redundancy, like my house that fell to progress, my trade's a memory. And I courted Rita Creevy, as pretty as you please, a rogue and a child of Rosie, from the rebel liberties. I lost her to a student chap with skin as black as coal, when he took her off to Birmingham, she took away my soul. Fare thee well, sweet Anna Liffey, I can no longer stay and watch the new glass cages spring up along the quay. My mind's too full of memories, too old to hear new chimes. I'm a part of what was Dublin in the red round times. Ring the ring, a rosy, as the light declines. I remember Dublin City in the red round times. Yes, I remember Dublin City